In the last lesson, we looked at adding rational numbers using a number line. And in this lesson, we're going to look at addition without using a number line. And just a review, you're probably familiar with adding whole numbers. If you had 3 plus 4, well, all you do is add 3 and 4 and you get 7. And on a number line, you would start at 3. Right? You would start at 3, and you would go 4 in the positive direction. And you'd end up at 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You would end up at 7. So if you start at 3 and you add 4, you would end up at 7. Now, when you're adding two positives, like 3 plus 4, you're just going to take the sum of that, and it's going to end up with a positive. If you're adding two negatives, let's say -1 plus a -2, your answer is also going to be negative because you're starting at a negative. You're starting at -1 and you're adding a -2. So you're going farther negative. So you start at -1 and you go 2 more in the negative direction. So you get -1, -2, -3. So you start at -1 and you add a -2. So when you're adding negative, remember, you go left. So you're going farther negative. So your answer is going to be negative. Now the tricky part is when you're adding a positive and a negative. When you're adding a positive and a negative, so let's say you have 3 plus a -1. If you remember what an absolute value is, the distance away from 0, which of these two numbers is farther away from 0? If we were to plot both of those on a number line, well, -1 would be about there, and 3 would be about there. So we have 3 and we have -1. The one that's farther away from 0 is actually the one that your answer is going to have the same sign of. So in this case, 3 is farther away from 0 than -1. So your answer is going to be positive because 3 has a positive and it's farther away from 0. So the absolute value, or the distance away from 0, of the integer or the rational number that's largest is going to be the sign of your answer. So in this case, and then you're going to take the difference of those absolute values. So you're really going to take the difference of 3 and 1. 3 and 1. So 3 minus 1, that's the difference. 3 minus 1 is 2. And since 3 is positive and it has the larger absolute value, your answer is also going to be positive. So it's going to be a positive 2. So 3 plus a -1, 3 plus a -1 is going to be 2 because you start at 3 and you add a -1. So you go in the negative direction 1. You go to the left 1 and you'll end up at 2. Okay, now what if the integer or the rational number with the largest absolute value was negative? Let's take a look at -5 plus 2. Okay, so on a number line, -5 would be about there, -5, and you have 0, and then 2 would be about there. -5 is farther away from 0 than 2. So when we take our difference of the absolute values, so we take 5 minus 2, the answer is going to have the sign of the one with the largest absolute value. So in this case, -5 is farther away from 0, so our answer is going to be negative. So a 5 minus 2, well, that's going to be 3, and then our answer is negative because -5 is farther away from 0 than 2. And that's just kind of the rule that you're going to do. You're going to look at the two numbers if they have different signs. So if one's positive and one's negative, you take the difference of those two numbers, of those two absolute values. So, and remember, absolute value is the distance away from 0. So the distance away from 0 of -5 is just 5. And you take the difference of that and the absolute value of 2, which is 2. So you do 5 minus 2, and you get 3. But since the absolute value of 5 is larger than the absolute value of 2, remember, it's farther away from 0. Your answer is going to take on that sign. So it's going to be a negative answer. And that's how we get -3. Okay, let's do one more example without the long explanation. Let's do 21 plus a -36. Okay, which one of these two numbers is farthest away from 0? Well, 21 is going to be 21 units away from 0, and -36 is going to be 36 units away from 0. So the number with the largest absolute value, or the farthest distance away from 0, is going to be the -36. So that means our answer is going to be negative. It's going to have the same sign as the number with the largest absolute value. So it'll be a negative, and then we take the difference of the two. So 36 minus 21. So 6 minus 1 is 5, and 3 minus 2 is 1. So our answer is going to be 15, but remember, it's going to be a negative. So our answer is a -15. Well, I hope this helps you understand a little bit addition without using a number line. I know we used a number line in some of these examples, but we got to a point where we could do these problems without a number line, and I hope this starts to make a little bit of sense for you.